Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and it's been a while since I made a Cyberpunk 2077 video. Ladies and gentlemen, this game has had one of the wildest development, cycles. To start off with, I was very excited for this game when it was first revealed, like 2013. I thought that CGI trailer was a banger. I was ready for a game in the Cyberpunk world, fully open world. I was excited. CD Projekt Red said they'd release it when the game was ready. Now, of course, if you were waiting since 2013, there was a long drought of information, until eventually they ended up coming up with information. They ended up showcasing some E3 trailers, some gameplay trailers, and then the game dropped. Now, of course, it's no state secret that Cyberpunk 2077 had about as much lies as an average Bethesda release. Ladies and gentlemen, the game launched in an absolutely terrible state. We're talking about the best version being the PC version, because you could brute force its performance, but for a game that released on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, it was without a doubt one of the biggest embarrassments and straight up scams at the time. When they showcased original PlayStation footage of cars driving around at the speed of 10 miles an hour, it made sense, because if you played this game on a PlayStation 4 at launch, you'd realize driving your car past 20 miles an hour would cause the game to freak out. It was a game that had a lot of bugs, a lot of crashes would constantly happen, and thankfully I have 1.0 footage of the game where the game is absolutely running horribly. What was printed on that initial disc is actually a showcase as to how much a company can lie and get away with it. The game was removed off digital storefronts, and there was a whole bit of a hoopla. Now, there are two things a company can do. They can either sit there and move on with their money, or they can fix up the project that they actually were making. And in this case, CD Projekt Red has finally reached its full redemption arc, okay? Cyberpunk Update 2.0 is out, and they finally added a bunch of features that should have been in the game from the start. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to be completely honest with you, I don't think we should be praising companies for finally matching up to exactly what they advertised. I mean, if you're gonna advertise something, then you should absolutely match it, okay? But again, I'm not going to be a sadist. Obviously, I appreciate the fact that they managed to update the game. Now, if you're a PS4, Xbox One player, you might as well stop this video, go home, because this update is not on your system, okay? To be honest with you, the biggest thing holding back Cyberpunk's grand ambitions was the fact they had to release it on anemic hardware from back in the day. PS4s, Xbox Ones were not notoriously powerful systems on the CPU front, and for an open world game like Cyberpunk, which aimed to, in CD Projekt Red's own words,
"We've greatly enhanced our crowd and community systems to create the most believable city in any open world game to date. The city's streets are bustling with crowds of people from all facets of life."
Now, to stress, the final look of the game written on the top of this gameplay reveal absolutely is true. This was not the final state of the game. This level of immersion, this crowd density, even with patch 2.0, isn't entirely available. Now, if you look at the 1.0 footage of the game released on the PS4, you can see that the density is obviously not the same. The NPCs and the way that they move around, it's not all the way there. It's not a perfect release, it never was. The game actually showed this as very deceptive advertising, because even on the highest NPCs at the time, it wasn't like this. The footage you're seeing of Cyberpunk 2.0 is recorded on my PC with a Ryzen 9 5950X, a RTX 4090, and I'm passing through 32 gigabytes of RAM. It's under a VM, so if you notice maybe a stutter or two, it may be because of that. But even with all of these updates, that level of density that was originally showcased is still not there. If anything, the game was even further downgraded to function on last generation systems. Systems that CD Projekt Red developers and their executives, well, the executive really, has said that they were surprised the game was running well. I mean, the game was running well, but obviously, when the 1.0 version hit, the traffic that you would see in Corpo Plaza would actually be diminished as patch 1.3 came out, according to this footage that I have over here, just so the game would function. They had to rewrite how the density worked, how things would load in, assets would stream in, just to get this game at a functional state for last-gen systems. Systems which, by the way, they advertised for, and they even showcased gameplay for the PlayStation and Xbox, where they deceptively hid the original systems as to not show people what it would run like on a majority of hardware that people would own. PlayStation 4 Slims, base PlayStation 4s, and base Xbox Ones. Now that initial gameplay where you're walking out of your safe house and you see a whole bundle of NPCs, logo in the corner, ladies and gentlemen, that I can tell you right now is not what the final build still looks like. See, loading up Cyberpunk 2.0, you're immediately starting off with your current save file. A lot of things have changed. It's actually better you make a new game, and exactly that's what I did. I made a new character, picked Penis 1 and Penis 2, hard pick, started the game as a corpo, put my skill points into tech, put it into hacking, put it into cool, and started the game off. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the initial 3 backstories still are as bare bones. It's 10 minutes of gameplay, and all of it leads to one exact location. See, the core story of Cyberpunk has not changed. The game is still very much a linear storyline. See, the only bit of story they could actually change is with the DLC that's still not out. It's coming out in a couple days, Phantom Liberty. I hope to God they manage to address the idea of actually having free-form role-playing gameplay. See, in this game, the most choice you could ever have during a mission is very much in the first act when you're actually raiding the Maelstrom food warehouse. After that, the game is pretty much an on-rails affair. There's not a whole lot of player choice you can pick. It's a fun linear storyline, but it's not the RPG everyone was expecting. So hopefully the DLC changes it. So why am I making this video? Well, because they released Update 2.0. Now if you're on the PS5, the Xbox Series S and X, and the PC like me, then you have access to Update 2.0. Now for PC players, I'm going to tell you right now, your system requirements just jumped up. You have a hard drive that you're playing this game on? Get out of here! You need an SSD minimum, ladies and gentlemen. So again, if you're a PC gamer, probably should have that. But obviously they upped their CPU requirements. If you look at the RT Overdrive and the Ultra requirements, the processor they want is a Ryzen 9 7900X. I'm actually just below that. I need to upgrade my rig if I want to play this game at the maximum fidelity. Of course, the top-end graphic card that they expect is an RTX 4080 if you're running Overdrive. Yeah, alongside the update, they actually managed to upgrade the graphics on PC even beyond what they had. Cyberpunk was not an ugly-looking game for all of its faults. With ray tracing Overdrive, the game absolutely looks amazing. A different level. It's got path tracing technology. A lot of locations in the game literally look night and day in comparison to their previous rendered versions. This game's lighting, shadow work, reflections just went through the roof. And Nvidia came in clutch the last 2 weeks and released something known as AI-driven ray reconstruction, which basically, uses artificial intelligence to fix up a lot of the issues in denoising ray tracing effects. So a lot of those reflections compared to previous versions look night and day more clearer, far better. The game even runs smoother because the artificial intelligence consolidates a lot of that math into something that makes the entire process just a little bit more easier on your hardware. So yeah, it actually looks better graphically. But of course, what about the world, ladies and gentlemen? When Cyberpunk initially came out, the AI was actually kind of a joke. NPCs weren't exactly the smartest, they were very much NPCs. The AI couldn't drive for shit, but now the AI can actually get into car chases. So speaking of key differences, they've got a new police system, and I put this shit to the test. Now in the original Cyberpunk release, we all remember as soon as you committed a crime, you did some public urination, cops would spawn literally right on your ass cheeks and open fire. It was hilarious. You could literally be sitting in a room by yourself and like 4 or 5 NCPD officers would spawn right next to you. It was a very lazy way of handling a police system. And of course, it was one of their biggest criticisms. Obviously, every other game handles cops way better than Cyberpunk. They don't just spawn in around you. So of course they tried fixing this initially by having drones spawn, then cops spawn at a distance, but now cops actually patrol the streets. There's 5 wanted levels, and every time you engage and piss off the NCPD, they're actively tracing and scanning around a location to find you. So even beyond all of it, they actually get into car chases, and they're pretty good at it too. They will constantly try to box you in, track you down, and the more you piss off the NCPD, the more they send actual straight up operators, militant operators right after you. If you reach 5 stars, 5 wanted rating, the 5-star list, you end up bringing max tack into the equation. So these guys drop in from above and absolutely careen your shit into the ground. The actual law enforcement is finally there. So ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I'm excited about. Obviously, this adds extra, immersion into the world. And honestly, if you're playing a game with open world and a cyberpunk universe with cops, you actually want the cops to feel like real cops. So, ladies and gentlemen, even in their original showcases where they actually showed the cars of Night City,
these are for chooms who love the smell of exhaust and the roar of street wildlife. Their powerful engines and exchangeable parts make them perfect for tuning. Whether it's street racing, running from the NCPD, or just showing off in the streets, with these high-powered beasts, you will have only respect.
They even talked about getting into chases. So finally, after 2 years, we finally have that advertising bullet point matched. You can get into cop chases. In fact, you can even go to the in-game internet and buy vehicles. A novel concept, one that I very much appreciate. It's that kind of immersion I love. However, you still can't customize your vehicles by taking them to a garage, but ladies and gentlemen, at this point, it is what it is. The fact that we actually got the police system still brings some joy to my heart. Again, this is what they initially advertised. I'm glad to finally see it. I'm glad to see car chases. I'm glad to see AI get into car chases outside of scripted events now. But beyond all of it, they finally added the ability to shoot guns from a car. Ladies and gentlemen, even in their advertising, they showcased V opening up a door and shooting his gun out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for 2 years, you couldn't do that shit in Cyberpunk. All you could do was drive. Finally, after this update, V has realized all I gotta do is roll down my windows, whip out the gat, and start firing. Yeah, you can actually shoot from the car. There's entire skills where you can activate slow motion in the middle of this and get into even intricate gunfights. It adds an extra layer of fun and combat to the entire situation. One that I very much can appreciate. So, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like a very tiny thing, and honestly, in comparison to a lot of other open world games, it is a tiny thing. It's a standard. But I'm glad CD Projekt Red is meeting that standard. Thank God. Now, of course, beyond all of it, the AI actually got enhanced as well. Their net runners are actually a bit more dangerous than they are before. And of course, according to their situation, improved NPC reactions to grenades, meaning they actually try to dodge a fucking shrapnel grenade, okay, instead of sitting right next to it. Faster detection by enemies when you're walking or sprinting. Seriously, these guys were more blinder than Payday 2 NPCs. Before this patch. And of course, enemies that don't hear a silenced weapon but do notice the bullet impact will not properly investigate the source of the gunshot. Listen, this is just basic stuff that I'm glad is finally added to the game. You don't understand how much this stuff really matters when you're trying to immerse yourself into an RPG. So of course, they even actually redid some of the perks as well too. There's actually less perks to unlock. When you start the game off, if you have like a 40-hour save file, it's actually ideal that you just start a new game, which is what I did, because they changed the entire skill system. So every single perks tree, every single skill system you go down into, it's more consolidated. Like there's less perks to pick, but a lot of them, almost all of them, have more impact directly into the gameplay. So there's a lot more fun stuff that you can do with builds, and because they redid some of these perks, obviously the game, the rebalancing, actually changes the way you use some of these builds now. So net running in the original game, which was hacking around enemies, that used to be so broken. Like we're talking maybe 10, 15 hours into the game, you literally could just hack every single person within 5 seconds upon entering an area and kill them. You could literally send contagion hacks, synapse burning hacks, and kill every single person within seconds. That has been redone. A lot of the hacks now are traceable, so if you start doing a lot more of them, netrunners will constantly counter you, they'll have their own set of perks to counter you, so there's a bit more challenge to the game, okay? It's a more exciting game to play, especially at even harder difficulties, because the AI actually seems different. They're not just bullet sponges at harder difficulties, at least in my experience. And of course, cyberware. You know, for a video game about goddamn body modifications, cyberware was actually a bit of an overthought in the original release. Now it's a fucking mandatory requirement, okay? You want to get better at hacking? Better start chopping off parts of your body and replacing it with superior body parts. Cyberware parts. You like armor in this game? Whew, better get used to fucking body modifications. Clothing can provide armor, but a big bulk of it comes from actually chopping your body up and, you know, becoming that cyborg being, okay? Becoming Atom Smasher, that fuckable cut of meat. Ladies and gentlemen, the game, I don't know if it has a cyber psychosis mechanic, haven't really went into it, but it's appreciated to see that the game is putting more emphasis into actually, you know, going down this road. In the original release, it really didn't feel like this was all that important. One could just play the game without ever touching this component, but obviously body modifications, important part of the Cyberpunk universe. And I'm glad to say their rework is actually quite good here. And can we just say it's appreciative that when you go to a Ripper dock and you get parts of your body chopped off, they actually have animations instead of just a menu screen. You know what they originally showcased in their E3 reveal? Yeah, this is why I don't really jerk off CD Projekt Red as much for this update, because it really is just delivering what they initially promised. So obviously I'm glad they did it, but it makes sense why they've abandoned the original consoles they released the game for, and using the newer hardware, using superior hardware, they were finally able to complete their vision. And of course, if you like weapons, they finally added the cool thermal katana, but of course, weapons even feel better too. The driving, the NPCs drive better. They actually have finally matched GTA 5 levels of driving artificial intelligence, which again, it's kind of sad to say I'm impressed that they're matching a game from 2013, but the fact that all of this is finally here, it feels alive, it feels better. Ladies and gentlemen, the other reality of this too is vehicles actually feel better too. The other thing is traffic density is nice. Finally, in Night City, a population of like, what, 30 million people? Finally is reflected on the highways. When I'm driving on the highways of Night City, at this moment, I don't bring the Rayfield. I don't bring the car. I bring bikes because I gotta get from point A to point B fast. Bikes are the only thing in this game that will actually get you there fast. Otherwise, you will be stuck in traffic jams. And I know some people find that shit annoying, but I really enjoy that level of immersion, okay? I'm weird like that. One of the actual changes I don't like is this one right here. All NPCs now scale to your level. Enemy difficulty is no longer dependent on which area of Night City you're in. Now, I know that some people love the fact that, why are these enemies level 40 and I'm only level 10? I actually don't mind when video games do this shit. Like, if you played the original release of Cyberpunk, usually the center city, Corpo like center, Santo Domingo, the center part of Night City, usually was filled with like level 30, level 40 gangbangers, and if you just started the game like a couple hours in, going into that area would get your shit kicked in. Now, if you're level 20, the enemies are level 20. Now if you're level 37, the enemies are level 37. So a lot of that fun of like, oh shit, I shouldn't be in this area, I'm going to get killed. You know, it used to be that center Corpo City was actually scary to me. I was scared driving down there because one bad mistake means a trip to the hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, not so much anymore. I get some people appreciate this kind of stuff, but can we just have like gameplay, like difficulty toggles, like allow me to actually level gate or not? That's something that I would appreciate. Maybe a mod will fix it, but that's where we're headed to. The only change I don't like in this entire situation. And of course, there's 3 new radio stations, so if you want to add some extra flair to the music, you got it, ladies and gentlemen. God damn. Now, of course, you know, that being said, there's been general fixes and whatnot. Look, Update 2.0 isn't a joke for Cyberpunk. This is very much what the original release wanted to be. And, you know, a lot of games have had redemption cycles, like No Man's Sky. Hell, even Fallout 76 has had a redemption cycle as well. May I remind you, one of the most popular MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV Online, used to be a pile of putrid cow shit when it first released. And it was only after getting taken down, reworked, brought back after it was redone on the drawing board that it became one of the most successful MMOs out there. Look, at the beginning of the video, I don't agree with the fact that CD Projekt Red lied in their initial showcases. But at the end of the day, it's a lie, and they could have either not released the final product and the game could have stagnated, sat there, and it would have been fine. It had its own community. People would have still bought a sequel. Now, with the chance that they're releasing this new expansion pack, which hopefully allows people more open-ended story choices, the fact that the game finally matches what they initially showcased in their gameplay trailers in terms of immersion, crowd density, vehicles, a lot of this stuff, that is appreciated. And I'm glad that they finally matched the game that they were initially pushing out. Maybe even exceeded it. Has Cyberpunk 2077 finally redeemed itself? Yeah. Throughout this video, you've seen footage of Cyberpunk 1.0 and Cyberpunk 2.0. And there is a massive difference between the two. One was a game that deceived a lot of gamers, lied to them. The second one is a game that still deceived its audience, lied to gamers, but ultimately matched its expectations. And honestly, I could sit here and shit on CD Projekt Red even more, but I'm just glad that people finally got the game they wanted. Look, I was waiting for this game since 2013, and the fact that for the last 6 hours today, I was playing this game, recording footage, and I genuinely liked what I played. CD Projekt Red, congratulations, you finally matched it. Next time when you're releasing Cyberpunk 2077 2 or 2078, please don't lie to your audience. Delay the game. Hell, make it a PC exclusive if that's what it takes to match the ambition you initially pitch. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it.